Hello, this is Bart Sharp with Becoming Quantum Conscious on United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 107.7 and 105.3 out of the beautiful city of New Orleans, Louisiana. And we are really blessed today with a wonderful topic of sacred travel. And, I'm, as probably, if you listened to the show before, you've probably tuned into the fact that I do tours in southern France or southwest France. And I'm very fascinated with the sacred site travel thing. And one of the things that really has interested me, and I learned this from a therapist many years ago, and learning how to experience life in general, he would bring up a concept of, are you living the life in the map, or are you living it in the territory? And with sacred travel, it's when you go to these sites, are you a tourist that's hearing the stories and you're really a part of you is back in your home, and it's a very intellectual experience? Or are you tuning into what the vibration of the place is? And through that visceral experience that you have inside of yourself, the sacred site takes you on a journey. It takes you into the territory. You're no longer in the map of seeing the pretty pictures and seeing what's written about it and seeing how people have discussed it and experienced in the past. You are having your own experience, and the vibrations are coming into you, and you can actually feel these things. It's a body process that your mind is learning to acclimate, and that is the territory. Being, absorbing, living it. You're no longer in the story. And it's a wonderful world to live in. And today we have Megan Coetzee. I get that
Coetzee. Coetzee.
right. Yes. Coetzee, Megan Coetzee,
Yeah.
who is it's like, probably, if you look at her, you probably say, and if you're on our cable television show on Roku, you get to see this lovely woman, and you probably say she's not Indiana Jones. She looks like a regular mom, and that she is, of 3 children in Cape Town, South Africa, with a husband, and they have a business together, Monarch Moving, which helps corporations establish in other countries, in short. But also she has her own business, Facets Spiritual Counseling. And it's like, how did this wild, adventurous woman, leave that safe, predictable life of business, family, children, predictability, well-educated, into the territory and wildness of sacred sites? Why would somebody want to do something like that? And that's where we're going to ask Megan Coetzee to come in. How are you doing, Megan?
I'm doing well, thanks, Bart. And we'll get the pronunciation of my surname right by the end of the show. And
Yeah, I'll just keep messing it up as a humor tactic, one of the two.
It's good. Okay. Thanks for having me. It's I'm really excited to be here, and I think in answer to that question, like what would make someone do all of this, is I think I'm a real adventurer at heart, and that's what my passion is, and it's really what lights me up. So when you invited me to talk on your show, I thought, like, what am I going to speak about? And I think the subjects of spirituality and travel are my two favorite. And if I can combine the two, that's just a recipe for a win. It's my favorite subject, and I can actually, I think, carry on speaking about this for hours and hours and hours. So it's good that we only have 1 hour. And I've actually made notes to try and narrow it down because I tend to like go all over the place. So
Oh, it's okay. I interrupt you all the time, so uh,
I just,
it'll certainly distract you from those notes. Uh,
yeah.
because you've traveled all over the place, and you're in. If I did not mention this again, you're in Cape Town, South Africa, and that would be down under, as they say. And everything I've known about South Africa is that, and Australia and all the other down under countries, is they feel life very differently.
Mm.
They're they embody it more between their hips than us Americans who are more in our heads. And where I'm at now, lovely France, they feel it more in their hearts.
Mm.
So this is something about sacred travel. We're trying to open up other forms of consciousness so that we take it home and do things very differently.
Yeah, that's so well put. And yeah, so I recently got back from a trip to Turkey, and when I thought of the title for my talk, I thought, I want to speak about sacred travel versus spiritual jet setting. And so the term spiritual jet setting came from this trip we just had in Turkey, where one of our fellow adventurers or explorers, someone called her or she said to her, she sees that she's now part of this spiritual jet setting group. Because we have been on a number of trips lately, and it just seems, I suppose, on social media, it seems like we're constantly flitting around the globe. Although we did have many years of lockdowns and COVID and things which inhibited our travel and things for quite some time. So we're making up for it now.
Yes.
And when she said this, this term spiritual jet setter, it triggered some of us. Like we actually had to think about that. And the initial response was, the person that said it must just be envious, or like, how dare she say something like that? But it made us really think about like what it is we're doing, and what is the difference between spiritual jet setting and sacred travel. And I suppose on social media and all the the beautiful photographs, we're showing all the best sides of it, and it looks amazing and wonderful, and which it is. But they don't see the 2 a.m. wake ups and the people getting sick along the way and things like that. So it's all of that.
And the
So
experience of big openings and awakenings that you
mm,
just can't describe on Facebook.
no, you can't. It's very difficult to put that into words. So yeah, and it might be viewed by other people as being really self-indulgent, and versus what sacred travel actually means. So and also, like, the groups we've been traveling with since we did that trip with you in France in 2019, and all the subsequent trips, is many of us do a lot of work on these journeys, and
Yes.
we activate at the sites, we expand our consciousness, we heal ourselves. So we work on a lot of healing on ourselves. We work, some people work with the land and the earth, and the healing that needs to happen in the spaces that need it. We release trauma, wounds, things we've been carrying for lifetimes. I mean, when we go to certain places, sometimes a memory of a time we had there would be triggered and remembered, and this causes a reaction in us, and it causes us to either heal that or feel it again. And so that often happens, and there's a lot of reawakening and reconnecting with parts of ourselves that we may have forgotten. And
Yeah.
and this has happened on almost every trip I've taken. and sometimes not when we're at the actual site, but kind of afterwards when I get home and I think back to something and I start putting, the pieces together. It's incredible. And, years later on another trip, you go, oh, yes, that's why that happened in France or that happened in Egypt. It's, you start to connect the threads and weave everything together.
Yeah. I kind of see it as, there's two perspectives of, one is you experience these amazing sights and light and higher vibrations enter into you. And what is it going to disturb and rustle up a lot of times is your shadow.
Yeah.
And, you may have these things that you repress and suddenly they come up. Or the other part is you come back home and you do things differently. Things happen for you differently. You perceive things differently. And as you do with your business facets, numerology and Akashic records, I'm sure that that's changed dramatically.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it definitely has. And all these, these things that happen and the people with us on these trips is if they have any latent gifts or, it could be speaking light language, it could be their healing abilities, it could be, you used to laugh at us. We would vibrate at all the sites when we'd touch, rocks or the altars and things. Our whole bodies would vibrate with the light and the energy coming in. And, some people would speak light language and things. So it really does activate. Some people channel. And
so when you say active, when you speak light language, what exactly is that? Probably some people do not know what you're talking about when you say that.
So how I understand it is when I was younger, like 5 years old maybe, I had developed a language which I spoke to my spirit guides in. And I didn't have a whole vocabulary and a list of words in a dictionary, but I had specific words that I'd use and speak to them. And they had names. And I'd kind of forgotten about this. And then years later, I met Yolandi, who's been on, her, and you've interviewed her before on the show.
She was on the show about a month ago, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. So she, we met each other some years ago, and she started speaking light language, and she did some activations with me, and suddenly it just came bubbling out. And I remembered, I was like, yes, I used to speak this. I know it's like a soul language. It's I don't know how to describe it. It doesn't sound, when you speak it, it doesn't sound like people would understand what you're saying, but it has vibrations. It has all sorts of things that come along with it that are just wonderful. So that's what it is.
It may be the author Lars Moll wrote this book called The Language of Light. And he speaks of Aramaic being a language that has many feelings and meanings in just one part of the word itself. And you actually interpret it through your intuition instead of a intellectual concept.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I forgot, I said his title wrong. I love to promote Lars because Lars Moll's is great. The Law of Light is his book. Explains how the language of Aramaic is spoken, much like the light language you're speaking of. It's something that you know intuitively. And it comes out. You're very blessed to have that come out.
Yeah, it's wonderful, and one can use it for clearing and all sorts of things. So it's really it's lovely. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people have different gifts and different talents and things that just come to the fore. I think when we're in these
I love to
places.
pester you with questions. If there's anything that you could tell the listeners, and also I want to tell anybody that wants to ask questions, please come on the chat and ask questions for Megan or myself, or just say hello. We always welcome any kind of chat. But Is there any, Megan, anything that you would give for advice for those who have something like that or suspect they have something like that? And is there any way that you can coax it out a little easier or more efficiently? Any thoughts on that?
With healing ability or different gifts. Like, are you
Yeah.
speaking about channeling? Or I think so. About, I mean, the times that it's happened where these things come out is when it's when we don't try and intellectualize things, and and try. It's often like when I go on a trip, I try not to read all the history and the research and everything, or someone else's interpretation, like you spoke about in the beginning,
Okay, so you try
about a
not to do
place.
that.
Yeah.
All right.
Or I don't. I try not to do that, because then I get stuck in my head and in my intellect, and it's when, and I find it's the most unexpected places when one is really just open to experiencing whatever there is to experience. And I think just being really, really open to whatever comes, and letting it flow, and not thinking, not putting your intellect or your ego in the way.
Mhm.
I'm thinking back to that church that you took us to, that Saint Sylvester Church,
Yes.
where I've always wanted to channel, and I've always been too afraid to, because what if that connection's not there, and it just, I had no idea that that would happen in that church, but I just walked in there and it happened, and it was just unexpected and wonderful. So I think my advice would just to be open, and be a vessel for whatever wants to work through you. And
I think at this church we're talking about, Saint Salvaire, it's,
mm,
just to explain to the audience, this is, of course, in Southwest France. It's real close to a town called Alet-le-Bon, and it's up on this hill. Very tiny church. Um, some people say that this is a place that Jesus has appeared in, and transitioned in, and also Mary Magdalene was there. Uh, and, I don't want to create any controversy here, not on this show ever. I'm becoming quantum conscious on UPNRN. Uh, However, St. Salvera is a lot in steeped in controversy, but people who come into this church, it seems to open their crown tremendously. And people that are maybe ready to channel, or they have some of those abilities, seem to have a lot of experiences there where the
mm,
channel opens. Uh, and sometimes this is all they need, and they come back home. And since they crossed over and did it once, it's easy to do it twice or three times, or do it for the rest of your life. You just kind of know how to do it.
mm,
It's the beauty of being in high energetic places. They open us, and we can choose to remember what we learned.
yeah.
Yeah. I just took a group there, and they were very feminist. And I do not mean that in a meaning way. They're very strong women that knew who they were in self, and they loved the feminine aspects of themselves, which is great. I was the only guy on the tour, and I
Mm,
had a great time with them. But one woman came in and had a very kundalini awakening in that very church, and she felt this presence of Jesus, like being in this kundalini interface with her. And I just keep wondering, I go, I wonder how this is affecting you now, to have something approach you like that so profoundly.
mm,
And you had something very similar in your own way.
yeah. It was just that complete crown opening experience, and just feeling like my whole being got really tall, and this huge amount of like golden white light and this Christ consciousness just came flowing in, and it was really the most profound thing that's ever happened. It was incredible. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
love, the immense love. It's beyond, I can't describe it.
yeah. It's funny when you talk about it's beyond love because it's um, sometimes love is just it has no limitations and it's higher vibrations upon higher vibrations, and we can't really describe it. Uh, but I still want to keep talking about it because those on the radio want to have insights about this, about what is it like to have love or experience of light that you've never known before. Um, is it your kind of ecstasy?
Yes, sure feels like it, eh?
Yeah, yeah. You feel like it opens your third eye or your heart or in your second chakra? Uh, tingly stuff, your
Yeah.
fascia alive?
Sorry, so are you asking someone online? Or are you asking me?
Your fascia, the energy going
Oh, the fascia. No, for me, it was a complete crown opening.
Mm,
Yeah, I felt very much that, and I've had a similar kind of experience again, although not so light filled and things, where it's like this kind of a it's kind of a rod or a staff or this very upright feeling, this very tall feeling, and kind of being a bridge between the cosmos and the earth.
So when you say tall, it means that you extend, it feels like you extend
Right up.
taller than your 5'10" frame.
Yeah. Much, much taller.
Hmm.
It's like this whole channel that just opens and it just reaches right up.
Do you know where Megan begins or Megan ends in such context as that?
No, it doesn't. We're never ending, and
And where that Christ consciousness begins or comes from or ends, do they feel like they're in a communion together?
yeah, it feels infinite and expansive and huge. Yeah, that's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah. So Megan, after you won the lottery, what do you do after you come back to South Africa with that stuff?
Yeah, so I think this is where those things that happen, they transform us. We come back to our families. We come back into our homes, into the work environment. We work with our clients, and that has a ripple effect out on those people, and so that ripples out into humanity and back into our planet and helps our beautiful Mother Earth evolve and ascend. And I think that's why we do that work. That's why these things happen, is that we can then let it ripple out.
Yeah. You take a little bit of that medicine from France home with you, and you give it out to the other people. That's what the American Indians would say. It's like an American Indian friend of mine who I was coming to France, and she gives me a couple of these little Herkimer diamonds and says, and I go, what do I do with them? She goes, I just want you to take the American medicine and go deliver it to France. We need to spread the medicine around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So how
beautiful.
does your kids get? What happens with? How does it affect them when you come home and you're like, the lights beaming out of your head?
So, I mean, when I got back from France, no one could recognize me anymore. I was like a completely different person. I felt so free and expansive. It was absolutely wonderful. But then life starts happening again, and things start happening. But everyone saw and has noticed the change in me. And every time I do go on a trip and I come back, I'm a different person every single time I come back. And
Mm.
I think it's very palpable. And I also believe, and I heard this years ago, the most damaging thing you can do for your children is not to live your life. And I think it's wonderful if I follow my dreams, live the adventures and things, because it inspires them. And I took my daughter with me to Egypt in January.
Wow.
Yeah, she's 16 years old. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, we had something happen there that made it very clear why she had to come with me. But it was incredible having her with me. And yeah,
Wow.
so I think it has a good impact on them, and it just makes them realize that they can also live their dreams and follow their hearts and do the
Yeah,
work they're meant to come and do here in the world, whatever that is.
it is. And when they're at that age and you can have this melding together through that experience,
Mm,
uh, no telling what's going to happen. I don't even know how you can define that,
mm, mm.
uh, but it is a melding together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a wonderful gift to give them, I think.
Now you've been to Egypt several times with
Mm.
Mich.
Anyway,
Oh, really?
this yeah, and this was my first time with Michelle in January.
Okay. So
Um,
you mentioned Michelle.
mm,
That would be Michelle Leske, Leske, and she runs a wonderful business called Awaken the Goddess Tours. So you can
mm,
just go to awakenthegoddess.com and check out Michelle, and she does tours all over the place. She's a very adventurous woman and
mm,
has decided to have a business touring the world and sacred sites. And so she researches sites and finds all the great places to go. And in my case, she hired me to be a tour guide for a group that she organized. But usually she organizes all of those things, I guess, and
mm,
leads it away.
yeah,
Not only South Africans, but Canadians and Americans and Australians and
mm,
you know, uh,
mm.
whoever else wants to join in.
Yeah, we've had people from all over the world on all the tours, and it is so. Michelle, just every single tour she's organised has been divinely timed, and
Mm,
we've made such wonderful connections with everybody. They've become lifelong friends. Like everyone on the tour have just become friends, and we keep in touch with one another. We follow each other's work. We support one another. It's been really really wonderful. Meeting all these amazing women and men from around the world.
yes. It's a different form of love and friendship, in my opinion,
Mm,
because you come together with these people that you may or may not know,
mm,
and you have these phenomenal heart awakening experiences. You open in ways that nobody else really sees you open in your regular mundane world.
mm,
And you do it all in 10 days or 2 weeks or whatever the time is. And the bond is created.
mhm.
It's a very unique form of friendship.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Some of
Yeah.
us have reunited, like we keep meeting up, and many of the people that were with us in France were in Egypt, and then again in Turkey. So it's great how we then reconnect again. Um, so that's been wonderful too. And then we got to meet you, and all the places we've been to, Michelle always finds the most perfect guides to take us around, and people who really know the areas and are passionate about what they do. And we learn so much from you too. So I don't think France would have been anything like it was without you, Bart. So Yeah,
Oh,
you and Michelle
it's
made a
always my
great
pleasure
team.
because it's a passion. Just
Mm,
like this radio show, Becoming Quantum Conscious at United Public Radio Network. That's where we're at 107.7, and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 out of New Orleans, Louisiana. And also we're on Roku, which is you get to see our lovely faces and on television if you wish to join into Roku, or you can be on Facebook or YouTube. We're all over the place. United Public Radio is a worldwide organization. I'm just lucky enough to have a show on it. Another passion that gets to open up and be with people all over the world, including Megan right now. Um, so, what are some of the favorite places that you've been? Because we're talking about sacred travel, and I'm sure there's people that are curious about how an actual person experiences these. We can read about them, but when you hear it from somebody's words, something else is transferred.
mm.
So can you share a really phenomenal experience that you had?
Yeah, there's so many. And France was peppered with them. I have like every day there was something I wrote about and unbelievable experiences there. So I think for the purposes of this show and things, I'm going to speak about an experience that we had in Egypt in January this year. And we got to in Luxor. It was the first place we went to, where the energy is just amazing. Have you been to Egypt, Bart?
I never have.
Okay.
I would love to though.
So in Luxor, and the energy there is unbelievable. So it feels, I kept on looking, like feeling like the energy was kind of watery, and it had this watery feeling about it. And yeah, I just loved it there. And we visited the Temple of Man at the Karnak temples, and then I think it was the second or third day we were there, we went to go and meet the lion-headed goddess Sekhmet. And she's kind of in a small little temple at the back of the Karnak temples there in a very dark room. So it's really intimidating and things and quite scary. And Michelle had us all wait in like the middle room of this temple in the dark, and she'd lit up the area where Sekhmet was with candles and everything. And then we each had a turn to spend some alone time with Sekhmet and just feel her energy and get whatever we needed from her, or just to experience her in which way we needed to. And she, people who had been to see her before and things had always said there's two sides to her. She can either be really fierce or very, very loving. So she has these two personalities, if you want to call it. And so one doesn't quite know how she's going to come across when you see her. And Sekhmet was the daughter of the sun god Ra.
Yes.
And so I'm sure you know a lot about her. But so we were all waiting in this room, and I think one or two people went in before my daughter and I. Michelle called us in together, and I was actually glad, because I think it would have been really scary and intimidating for Eva to have gone in at 16 years old into this dark room with this very powerful goddess standing in front of her. And kind of we walked up to her and we stood and looked in her eyes. And the moment I stared into Sekhmet's eyes, I just felt my mom's presence in spirit, because she passed away in 2019, just before I came on the France trip. And prior to that, I'd been really struggling to connect with her in spirit. Even if I dreamt about her, she'd be having her back towards me or not speaking. And this was kind of upsetting me that I couldn't communicate with her and connect with her. And so when I looked into Sekhmet's eyes, I just thought, I know you here, like I can feel you. And then I started to receive this information from her. And it was like a weird combination of Sekhmet and my mom. kind of delivering this message
Wow.
about how I needed to bring my daughter to Egypt and to this place, especially in Luxor, in that temple, because the veil is very thin there. So it's very easy for people in spirit or souls in spirit to kind of come through where the veil is thinner. And the message was that we no longer need to be victims in our lives and I'm speaking specifically from like the feminine line in our family, because I had my daughter there and I kind of in a flash saw her children and things, and how this victim consciousness and patterns of abuse or being victims to illnesses, all those things, it ends here. And that we are strong, and that we also come from a line of very, very strong women and powerful co-creators. And it was a very short space of time, but all this information just came in. While this was happening, my daughter burst into tears and she started sobbing. And luckily Michelle was in the room with us, and she grabbed Ava and kind of held her. And I knew she was okay, because I didn't want to stop what was happening. And so I let Michelle hold her, and I kind of finished off this transmission that was happening. And I took my daughter outside, and we sat on a little wall outside in the sun. And I said to her, why did you cry? What happened in there? And she said, Mom, the minute I stood in front of Sekhmet and I looked at her, Granny was standing in front of me. And I was, okay, that's huge for a 16-year-old to experience,
Yes.
seeing the form of her grandmother standing in front of her. And she didn't know what I was experiencing. I didn't know what she was experiencing, but it was just such a confirmation that was real. And so it was amazing. And from that, we came back home, and things would be happening at school, and she'd be struggling to figure something out or understand something. And I'd say to her, just remember what Granny said to us in Egypt. Remember what we learned there. And then you can suddenly see this like strength and this, she's got an inner strength and things, and an understanding of how to hold herself and know that she's not a victim to things that happen in her life. And that's so wonderful to teach our children that way, and for them to have those experiences. So that was really profound.
Yes, it's so true. It sure goes beyond the predictability that I think some people, like when they come onto my tours, they say, well, I want to have the Mary Magdalene experience. And no, it's more like finding your own personal story validated and strengthened. Something inside of you becomes stronger, and you have the confidence sometimes. And maybe it's because you're in a different context. You're out of your mundane world. Because I don't think maybe it's not that Egypt or France or Turkey or these places have all the problems for all the answers for everybody in the world. Maybe it's just to be in a different context with a different energy, and suddenly you're open to something new.
Could be.
And if we're willing, we keep pushing that journey. We keep coming back. I mean, from people, what tell me about South Africa is that it's a very powerful place. Do you feel some of the power there?
Yeah, and unfortunately, I've been to one or two of what they call the sacred sites here, but I was much younger and not really aware of like really tapped and tuned into what was going on. But yeah, there are very, very powerful spaces here. But I do think that when you used to refer to them as power spots, I do think there's potent energy there that makes that connection a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think like all the spaces hold that energy and those potentials and possibilities. I do think that we
Yeah.
have to. There's very special places where, you know, things were happening there a long time ago, and it's ancient things that we're tapping into, and yeah,
Mm.
power spots.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe if I went to South Africa, I might be expanded tremendously because I have never been exposed to the powers of down under, so to speak.
Mm.
So it might be very different.
Well, Michelle's doing a trip. She's doing a trip in South Africa now. I think this year, late in September this year. I
Whoa.
think she's running a tour here. And yeah, they're going to many of the sacred sites and also into the bush with the animals and things like that. So I think it's going to be
Wow.
absolutely wonderful, wonderful experience.
I think that would. That's tempting.
Mm,
Still, my passion is France, and I keep going to the same power spots again and again
mm,
because they keep opening
yeah.
me
Mm,
uh, tremendously. In fact, I just spent 7 hours yesterday in the Grotte La Bethlehem, which is the sacred Cathar cave, where they did their final initiations.
mm,
If you wanted to become a monk or a parfait or a parfaite, and that means men and women went into this cave for their final. I wouldn't call it a test. We really don't know because we don't know all of their stories. Most of that was kind of wiped out. Uh, but what we do know is that this was a challenging cave for them and for me as well, and for
mm,
others who visited it because
mm,
it expands you so much. No
yeah,
telling what's going to happen to you.
yeah. I also had a quite a crazy experience there. I remember just feeling it was a mixture of fear and like ecstasy. It was a really, really strange experience I had there, and I'm still trying to fathom what was going on there that day.
Wow.
But it was incredible. It was an
I
incredible.
remember it quite well, and I generally do not remember everything, but I just remember there's a 3-ton rock in the middle of this cave that is elevated under 3 stones. Lord knows how they got it up there, levitation perhaps. However, when you lay on this rock, this white light energy is incredibly powerful. And Michelle
Mm,
Lesk was leading the group that day, and she had everybody just do a hands-on opening for whoever laid on the rock. And when you got up, uh, I didn't. You were about to explode into tears, and yet you looked like you were in ecstasy.
mm.
And you went over to a wall and just cried into a wall. I think.
Yeah, I remember my hand just shaking. It was crazy, and I think yeah, I've been trying to make sense of it, and I don't know if I was feeling, you know, I don't know what I was feeling. One day it will land and make sense. But I'm just so intrigued by people, who you interview subsequently, and I listen to their experiences and stories and things, and just it's very, very interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And so when you come back from an experience like that, how does your energy work change? I mean, because you do Akashic record work as well as
Mm.
numerology, and marry those together in your business called Facets at Facets uh, dot co dot za, and that's
Mm-hmm.
FACTES dot co dot za. and I don't want to mess up your last name again, but it's like this under, if you just Google Megan Coetzee, that would be
Coetzee.
Coatzee. Gosh, you South Africans have most interesting names. Uh,
Yeah.
so you can check out her work there. But how has it changed when you come back from an experience like that?
As I said, I mean, the lessons you learn and the experiences that you have definitely, open up those gifts that maybe have been latent. And so when we're working in the Akashic records in the quantum field, I find it easier to channel information and or to really trust, what's coming through. So that, and also one has more experiences to kind of tap into and lean on, and stories, and where you've actually felt it and embodied those things, so it becomes easier to teach and to
Hmm.
use those tools practically. It's bringing that spiritual experiences and wisdom into your physical body, and then making it practical and usable for people. But I think, just as we have roadmaps and navigation systems and maps on our phones to help us navigate, the external travel in the world, we also have inner roadmaps, and numerology is one of those tools and sciences that have given us this map for kind of navigating our inner life. And that's, so just as one is an adventurer in the external world to travel to sacred sites and things, one also is an adventurer and does the internal journeys and the internal traveling and exploring.
And maybe there's also just a desire to apply it.
Mm.
I see some people experience things, and it's almost like a carnival ride or like a drug that they
Mm.
go, "Oh, wow, that was fantastic." But there's not a confidence and strength in them to say, "Now I can take this and put it to use."
Mm.
And I think that's what I hear from you. It's
Mm.
that I'm going to be curious with this new energy, and I have these ways I can do it. I mean, would your daughter have decided to go to Egypt or have a desire to do something like that if you were not doing it
Yeah,
beforehand?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think also, Bart, there's a component of commitment to one's journey. If we're going to go and just travel for the sake of traveling and having fun and do the jet setting, or are we going to commit to this sacred journey? Are we going to commit to this heroine or hero's journey in our lives, and actually, you know, commit to the work that we came here to do, and to this, our mission and our purpose and things of being here. I think when one steps on that path and commits oneself to doing that kind of thing, then miraculous things happen, and things start opening up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a wonderful life, and uh, another part of this is to be just so grateful that you have this opportunity.
I am immensely. And
Yeah,
the more grateful I am, and the more, um, I think just saying, like, being that vehicle, being that vessel for these teachings to come through, and then teaching it to other people and committing to it, has enabled it to happen, and manifested these wonderful opportunities to travel and to do this work. So I'm honored and extremely grateful to be in this position, and hopefully inspire other people to believe that it's possible for them too. Because I said to you a while ago, 10 years ago, I would never have dreamed of any of this being possible. I mean, having 3 small children and a business and everything, it was not happening.
I think you
But
can find any excuse why you can't afford it, but you can also find every reason why you can.
yeah,
Just allow it.
make it happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
funny. It's funny how when you have that desire, it works in your chi, you know, and you're connected to it, and you there's another component that you believe that you can do it, and then suddenly the finances happen for you.
everything just transpires to help, and yeah, it just has worked like that. So there's so many more places to go to, and so
Yeah.
more to explore and to adventure, and I look so forward to that in the future.
Hmm. Yeah. So when you do Akashic Records, does it seem to have that like adventure type of possibility in it?
It does. It does. And I think so what has happened and things is with a numerology reading, it's you kind of do the session with someone, you take them on the journey through their chart, because it is like a journey. We go from back into past lives, back into family karma and all sorts of things, but into your childhood, through the seasons of your life, your challenges, and right up into your destiny. And then the person, the client would walk away, and I'd think, I don't know how much of that you're actually going to absorb. Like, are you going to find it usable, and things like that? And so I think learning to go into the records and work in the quantum field with somebody, and let them come and be on that adventure with you, and travel to territories where our souls are, and then work there, and actually let them experience what that's like. And
Sounds sounds
yeah,
intriguing to me.
yeah, no, it's wonderful, and that's where the amazing work happens, where we actually start to unravel these things and transmute them and transform them, and
Do you think the vibrations that you experience on these travels, particularly with something like encountering segment, would help you be able to journey deeper with Akashic skills?
I think so. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So that's the awesome work, and I feel like both of them work so nicely together, because for skeptics, if you show them the science and the numbers, then they believe that, and so we go in little increments and steps, and so until they're ready to fly and to go into places where most people feel they can't go to, or fear it. So yeah, it's just
And for you, the sky's the limit.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we just have a minute or two left. I was just wondered, is there anything in closing you would like to share? Whether it be a dream, a place, words of wisdom?
Let me see what I wrote down here, because I did write something down. This is a good
Mhm.
closing. So many people believe that they are not enough and not deserving, or not capable of making their dreams come true. And I just want to say that remember who you are, and remember your worth and your magnificence, and you too can turn your dreams into a reality, and live that magnificent life you came to live.
Hmm. Well, thank you. That's good words of wisdom to close the show on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being and sharing your journeys and having such a personal experience on what transformation is like for something that we both hold very passionately, which is being at these sacred sites. And we do have to travel in planes to get to them in so many cases, but it's well worth investing your time and finances in doing so.
Yeah. And thank you, Bart. Thanks for having me. And again, yeah, thank you for all the wonderful experiences we had with you in France. And yeah, it's great.
It's wonderful. Who knows? We may do it again. You never know.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thanks. And this is Becoming Quantum Conscious at United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network out of New Orleans, Louisiana, which we're on Roku and Facebook, YouTube, and please check us out on Roku especially. So you'll be on your television set, and I think we'll all look so fancy up there. It's just a nice feeling to think you're on TV. And next week we will have the return of Alethea Pistis Sophia, and she and I will co-host a show together on the principles of embodiment. And we'll be going out for a live show at her and her husband, Pete Wilson's hotel at Leconte, France. And so with a live audience, no doubt. So it's going to be really fun to do this with Alethea. She's a lot of fun. So hope you join us next week. And thanks again, Megan. And hope you have many more sacred journeys.
Thanks, Bart. Bye.
Bye-bye.